Hey, friends. So, welcome to episode 2 of our Cycle Sync Your Business series. If you missed the first day, make sure and go back and watch that video so you have a little bit of an overview and a background about what the heck that we're talking about. Because today we're going to start diving into the 4 phases of our cycle. And I love thinking of the phases as our inner seasons because there is a really great correlation to the seasons of nature. And it's a really fun way for us to really be grounded to the seasonality of the life and our bodies and nature and all things and creation. And it just makes sense for me as a former environmentalist as well. And it's just really fun. So we're going to start off with the season of spring, because this is not necessarily the first season of your cycle, the first phase during your period, which is the beginning, technically the beginning of each cycle. We count the first day of your cycle as the first day you start bleeding. That's considered your inner winter for obvious reasons that you can probably understand. But I really wanted to start with introducing you to the spring phase because this is a really fun, high energy, dynamic phase. And we're going to cover spring into summer, the 2 higher outer energy phases, and then we're going to end with chatting about autumn and winter, which are the more internal phases that a lot of us have trouble connecting with in this world that teaches us we have to constantly be productive and be working and be hustling. So your inner spring is probably something you're familiar with and something that you feel more comfortable in. So when does this phase happen? In scientific language, this phase is called the follicular phase because after your period, your body is getting ready. The follicles are getting ready to release another egg for another round of your cycle. So this is the week after your period. And when I talk about these energetic seasons, I'm talking about this embodied, this energy you have in your body. So there's no exact date for these seasons. This is something you're just going to have to play with and experiment and tune into on your own, which is why I think it's really fun to start journaling and tracking your cycle by journaling your energy every single day and starting to make this a ritual, a habit, and you'll start to see some patterns for you over the months because we're all different. All of our bodies are different. So all the information I'm going to be sharing with you is just a general overview of what you might be experiencing. There's no right or wrong way to feel, way to be. There's no healthy or unhealthy way. Your hormones can technically be out of balance, but what does that even mean, right? We're all different. We're all human. We're all messy. So tune into your energy first and foremost. But there will be a point during your period. So obviously during your period, you're probably feeling really tired, sluggish, blah, more calm. And then there's going to be a point where you might start to notice your energy picking back up, where all of a sudden your motivation's back, your energy's back, your mood is back up, and you're just like, yeah, let's do this. And you feel ready to emerge back on the world, kind of like a flower blossoming in the spring. So this season, it typically lasts around 7 to 10 days. But this is the season that can stretch a little longer. It all depends on when you ovulate because sometimes we ovulate later in the month, and so you're going to have an extended spring. Sometimes you ovulate sooner, your spring might be shorter, but it's roughly the time after your period, between your period and around the time you ovulate. So that first half of your cycle. So your hormones are starting to pick back up again. Your energy is starting to pick back up again. Imagine what's happening in the springtime in nature. If you live, especially in the northern hemisphere, this is when the flowers start blooming, the animals start coming back, and the earth starts to wake up. You can think of this similarly with your energy. You're starting to wake up. Your creativity is waking up, and this is a really fun, high energy, active season as your energy is rising again. So what if you're on the birth control pill? What if you don't, or you're not ovulating for whatever reason? Again, you can either just start tracking the days of your cycle based on your pill. The great thing about the pill is that you're going to have really regular cycles, so you'll know when to predict this. You can consider your spring the first week of your new pill pack, or you could go off the phases of the moon. So in the lunar cycle, spring would be the time that the moon is starting to get bigger. So the waxing crescent moon. So as the moon is going from the new moon into the full moon, it's this growth phase, this active phase, this dynamic phase of outward focused energy. So in terms of business, what is best? What is most aligned during the season? Well, think of this as the season to get to work. This is a really great season to just embrace the hustle, because you are going to have more energy. You're going to be open to starting new things. So think of this as the time for new beginnings, for starting new projects, for setting intentions, for making it happen, for putting yourself out there, maybe scheduling more calls, maybe doing some more networking and working on projects and really getting the work done. At the same time, just be careful not to overextend your energy, especially towards the end of your period, the beginning of your spring phase. You're still going to have a limited amount of energy. So remember that it's okay to pour your energy back into yourself. This is something I'm practicing. You don't always have to expend your energy on other people and on your business, right? You can also spend on yourself. So be careful that you don't kind of sprint out of the gate too fast, because that might lead to burnout later on in your cycle. So pace yourself, but also go with the flow. And if you want to wake up early and stay up late working because you're in the groove, you can go for it. Just really start to play and embrace this energy of playfulness. This is a very playful, very creative, very joy, fun, fresh time for us mentally and emotionally and creatively. You can also think about this phase in terms of the archetype of the maiden or the little girl. So think back to when you were a little girl and your inner critic hadn't started popping up. You pre-adolescence, you just embraced life, and you played and you jumped and you yelled and you had friends. You didn't judge yourself. You were innocent, right? And so bring that playful little girl energy back into your life, back into your business. This can be a time for a little turbulence, just because your energy is more actively rising. You can potentially experience some inner critic flare-ups around this time. I notice it personally in the beginning of my spring, especially if I start to take action too soon and put myself out there too soon. I can get some kickback from my inner critic and my limiting beliefs, and can get some of that inner turbulence. So just be aware of that, and remember that it's okay to work behind the scenes. You don't have to share all of your new creations with the world right away. So think about your business right now and think about the different work that you do, the different projects, the different tasks and things that you do, whether you work with clients, whether you're a photographer, whether you create products, whether you write or create services or have to promote yourself, you're a performer, and think about your energy during the first part of your cycle and think about what would feel good for you. What would make sense for you during this time? So for me as a life coach and a health and fitness coach, this is when I start to work on launching new programs. I might not really be full force launching them yet, but I'm doing the groundwork. I'm writing blog posts. I am reaching out, making connections, hanging out with my friends, and setting intentions for the cycle ahead. It's also really fun to maybe, if you're into Oracle or Tarot cards, to pull an intention card for your cycle or for each phase of your cycle and use that to guide you too. So have fun with it. So that's an introduction to your spring phase. We will be diving so much deeper into this and all the inner seasons in my Wild Synchronicity program that you can check out at annamarialock.com/wild-synchronicity, or message me if you want to chat more about that. But tune into this, play with this, figure out what day of your cycle you're on. If you're on roughly like day 6 to day 14 or 20, that middle first part of your cycle, you might be in your spring. So let us know how you feel when you're in your inner spring, if you have any takeaways, and tune in tomorrow as we continue on into the summer phase.